Welcome to Valuations and Succession Planning for Car Dealers, where two industry experts take a deep dive into the world of dealership valuations and the strategies that can drive growth and success. In this series, Dan Iosue, a succession planner with the Rawls Group, and Scott Womack, Senior Vice President of Mercer Capital, will cover a wide range of topics, including the fundamentals of valuations, industry trends, best practices, and common challenges faced by car dealers. Here we go.
It's another good question, Kendall. And I think, as we've discussed in, prior episodes, I think it's critical that we've got crystal clear expectations and transparent agreements on the front end that outline, what is the opportunity? So what's the, from a succession planning standpoint, if we're talking about key manager retention or minority partnership, and we're talking about, okay, how are we going to, how are they going to qualify for this opportunity? If they've already qualified, then we're talking about what the opportunity is specifically to buy in, what the opportunity is for them to potentially buy in at a higher level. Where do they cap out? And then how are they going to be bought out, and what does that look like? And what I mean by that is very clear, a clear method for how valuations are going to be performed, then having the valuations on the front end, and then also what are the terms going to be for a buyout if they're going to be bought out upon a triggering event. So they quit, they get fired for cause. What does that look like? What if they exit gracefully and meet all expectations? What does that look like? How is the valuation going to be handled at that time? And then what are the terms of the buyout? And so under the sort of expectations front, we talk about what are the performance expectations, of course, but sometimes there are behavioral expectations too. In certain circumstances, certainly from a succession standpoint, there could be an expectation that they develop the next generation and that they shepherd the next generation's, leadership potential along, and that can be, and oftentimes is, challenging. But there are plenty of good examples where that's happened and worked very successfully with clarity and clear expectations. So neither the key managers are making assumptions nor the owners are making assumptions. Everybody knows the deal, and we're all going into it eyes wide open, and I think that's the most important part of what we do, and certainly having valuations performed and clarity as to how they're going to go in the future is a critical piece of that.
Yeah, Dan, I couldn't agree more on clear, transparent, consistent terms. That's a point over and over. And I think the other element that key employees, they want to be treated fairly. I know that can be since neither one of us are lawyers, we certainly aren't here to give legal advice, but they want to be treated fairly. I mean, the idea, the concept of this process is to incentivize them to grow your dealership, both from a people standpoint, but value. So they want to be treated fairly. And again, we've talked about this in a prior episode, but where we tend to get involved in these is on the back end when things aren't defined clearly or sort of go sideways. One interesting thing that came up with me on a project this summer, having the valuations is important, obviously, to set the benchmark for what something may be worth today. And then clearly when a triggering event or an exit happens to set that as well. In the context of doing something on the front end, I had an interesting discussion this summer with a family group where they had an existing GM who was performing very well, who had not yet been offered or obtained ownership. And so the family, the dealer side, hired us to do the valuations. The GM had hired another expert to do valuations. And as I'm sure you can guess, one value was here and one value was here. And one of the consulting discussions I had with my client was, look, we think the value is here for all the reasons and value drivers that we've discussed in another episode, but don't lose sight of this point that, you know, the GM can be the heartbeat of your dealership. And the fact that you all have a good one right now, if you haven't identified another GM candidate within your family and these negotiations were to go poorly and you run him or her off, the value of the dealership may go from here down to here if it's poorly run. So, you know, maybe in terms of that buy-in, buy-out, maybe not try to squeeze every last dollar, or be thinking about that the ultimate value of the dealership in some degree is a reflection of who's operating it and how well they're operating it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Scott. Yeah, fairness. Yeah, I mean, fair, and the definition of fair is subjective, but there are definitely two sides to the coin, and you bring up a great point. This is someone, if we're bringing them into a partnership situation and putting them in this seat, they're already adding value, and could very well be driving the performance and a significant percentage of the valuation of the dealership. So let's do the right things for the right reasons in good faith, and keep that in mind as it relates to what the business is worth.
This is only one out of our 12-episode series focused on dealership valuations and the strategies that can drive growth and success. Continue listening to the series now or come back for more. Each topic featured may want you to learn something new. Succession planning allows you to create more control over the future you envision by proactively addressing possible, probable, and potential issues impacting your goals. Do you have a question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to reach out directly to Dan or Scott at the email addresses listed on the screen. Valuations and Succession Planning for Car Dealers is a part of the Rawls Group's Advancing Your Business, People, and Legacy Conversation series.